My name is Louise Marriott. I am 20. I'm currently studying a double degree Commerce and Arts here. Would you like to know my majors? Yeah, sure. So in arts, it's government and political economy. In commerce, it's international business and commercial law. My colour is daisy yellow, so similar to Reese and Nick Coffin. And my slogan is Super Sarah.
Great. So there's a fairly big field of candidates this year. What do you think makes you different to the other candidates?
I think what makes me different to the other candidates is that I bring to this role a unique set of skills and experience. So I've worked as a management consultant. I know it's not particularly sexy, but I have a really big interest in operations and facilities management. I think that I can help with my experience also as a commerce student, just basic understanding of how businesses work, to make operations more efficient, to get more money, to reinvest that into student programs. And I think that combined with the fact that I'm fun and I think I'm going to run a fun campaign will hopefully distinguish me from other candidates.
Okay, so on the other candidates, which of the other ones do you most identify with? Like your top three, sort of, your ideal
I think everyone has made friends. I mean, I have certainly made an effort to make friends with the other candidates. I think that there are a lot of different candidates this year that different combinations of them would result in a different board. I would consider most of them, almost all of them, my friends that I've spoken to.
So, like, any two or three in particular, or you just kind of get along with all of them?
I kind of get along with all of them.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of capable candidates that would do a great job if they were elected.
So, moving a bit to the current board, what do you think is the most important legacy, or what's the most important achievement of the current board? And also, further to that, what do you think is the biggest problem that the board currently faces?
Okay. I think that the greatest achievement of the current board is Sabella Matthews' ability to negotiate with the university. So she's still on it as the immediate past president, and I think that her ability to negotiate with the university in an extremely difficult time will remain her greatest legacy and the board's current greatest legacy. In terms of difficulties, what was the second part of the question?
So what's the biggest problem you view the union to be facing at the moment?
I think the biggest problem, or probably the area for greatest improvement at the moment, is unfortunately when the university failed to renegotiate the service level agreement, the role of the venue collection was significantly downgraded. So basically the university's taken back control of centralised room bookings, which makes it more difficult for students to access rooms. And it also means that the venue collection isn't the preferred supplier for catering on campus. And that means that we've lost a lot of revenue as a result, and that the university, when they're saying, yeah, sure, you want an event, they don't have to say, we've got a catering business, the venue collection's on campus. So I think that that's probably one of the greatest problems that the board is facing at the moment, and I think it's a great area of improvement that hopefully we can negotiate our way to solve.
Great. So just then, our sort of last question about the current board. If elected, who do you intend on voting for president?
I think that question, it's just way too early to tell. That decision wouldn't be made until after everyone was elected. I am more focused on getting elected first, and then I will deal with that when that comes.
Very cool. So we'll just move on to a few questions from your policy statement.
Sure.
Related to your policies. So the first one, so you mentioned that you want to set up an internship program. How would that work? A triple barrel question. How would it work? Would it be paid or unpaid? And should the USU be looking to hire more students to fill staff positions?
Okay, so how would it work? I would like to see a more formalised process that would encourage students that perhaps wouldn't otherwise be engaged to become more involved with the USU. And students have skills, they've got capabilities, they're learning and are often quite eager. By having this program, it would help students to become more employable when they leave, and that's part of the USU's responsibility with looking after students outside of the classroom. So I think that that could work really well, and that excites me. I think that's a good thing that the union could do. The second part of the question, unpaid or paid, I think that students should be paid for the work that they do. I think that the union would benefit from the skills that they provide and the work that they do, and so I think that they should be paid for it.
Yep.
What was the third part?
And the third bit was, do you think, in view of that, the USU should be looking to hire more students on perhaps a more permanent basis or part-time basis to fill the staff positions?
Particularly in the retail areas.
Okay.
Yeah, particularly in retail, but also maybe in some of the other staff positions. So maybe you get a student in to do an internship and they do really well. Would you then be in favour of hiring them on a more permanent basis?
I think that would ideally be great. We've got a lot of students working with the USU at the moment. I think 58% of our casual staff are currently enrolled students. We can see the example with James Alexander with the Incubate program. It was on a voluntary basis, and now he is working and getting paid for the work that he does with that particular program. So yes, I think that I think that'd be a great idea. Keeping in mind, I don't think that should replace the internship program. I think that if the...
No, I don't mean that at all.
Okay.
So, yeah, like more, like would there be scope for the student who completed the internship program well to then transition into a more permanent position?
Yeah, I think that would be really great.
Yeah.
Great. So the next one, what would a Hermanns beer garden entail? Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of think it already has a beer garden with the lawns and the chairs and stuff out front. Like, how would your idea be different to what it already has?
Okay, so I'll start with why I think it's required and why I think that it should be changed. I don't know if you guys have been to Hermanns lately, I assume you have, but on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, it is raging. There are heaps of people there. It's not just Manning's poor, dodgy little cousin anymore. It's doing really well, and I think that it needs some investment, some attention to make it cool as it really is. I think part of that is keeping part of the lawn, but also providing more tables and chairs for people to sit on and to use. I think that space could be better utilised. I also think that it can be a more inviting space than it currently is. Basic things like fairy lights or an additional undercover area. I think that we could distinguish it further from Manning if we could provide cocktails for students at Hermanns. I think that could be really fun. I mean, there's been ideas of a barbecue thrown around as well. I think that could work really well, but I think that at the moment it needs more attention and investment to make it a better use of the space that we have to bring even more students to Hermanns.
Okay, so both of these first two policies, the internship and Hermanns one, they seem like they would cost quite a bit of money to get up. If you had to choose, surely the internship program would be great to have, and Hermanns is fine as it is. Or do you think you can feasibly achieve both of these things?
I think I can feasibly achieve both things, and I know that's pretty ambitious, but I think that there are a couple of reasons for that. I think Hermanns would be a larger upfront cost to be able to give the attention to Hermanns that it needs. There are a couple of ways that the USU can get that money. Part of it is from the capital sinking fund with the SSAF allocation. Obviously it's there for capital investment, and I think the USU would have a good claim on that money if it were to help Hermanns, because it would benefit the entire student population from that respect. In terms of the internship program, I think that it's also feasible because it's more of a long-term program rather than a quick upfront, let's fix this and then move on. So I think that could be great, but also we're looking at having a surplus this year. We are doing financially reasonably well at the moment, although not quite financially independent. And I think that it's a good policy and it's worth finding the money for, which I think is realistic.
Cool. Alright, so we'll come back to sort of finance questions later.
Sure.
Keep with policies now.
Yeah. You also mentioned bringing back Commemoration Day celebrations or some kind of ceremony or something on Commemoration Day.
Yeah.
That's been promised in a number of previous years. What makes you think it's feasible?
Okay, so what I think the best reason for the current board to be elected, hopefully me included, to help start and kickstart this Commemoration Day party, is that next year the USU turns 140, which is pretty exciting. I would like to think that we could throw a huge celebration and celebrate the history that the USU has, and so from that perspective I think that it's relevant to the current board. There's a working party currently to see what they would do to celebrate that 140 years, and I think that it would be an excellent way to kickstart the anniversary of a Commemoration Day party. I mean, other universities do it, and for example, at one of the universities, I think Queensland, they broke the world record for the largest toga party for their Commemoration Day party. And I think that we're a little bit cooler than that and could probably do a better job. So I think that that's why it's relevant to this board.
Great. So the last question we sort of have relating to your policy statement is that you mentioned in your statement that you would bring business savvy to the USU board.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the USU is doing a good job of balancing its corporate structure with its role as a representative student body?
Firstly, I'd probably disagree with the fact that it's a student representative body. I think that's the SRC's responsibility, and I think it does.
Representative in terms of like providing student services and looking out for student needs.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So I think that the USU's responsibility is kind of twofold, because obviously the ultimate responsibility is to providing services for students and enriching the student experience on campus. But what a lot of people forget is that it's ultimately a $20 million business, and we need to operate efficiently and get that money to be able to invest it in student programs. So I think I think they're doing a good job at the moment, but I think it could be vastly improved. I've spoken to a number of board directors who've expressed concerns about operations that are not doing badly, but perhaps underperforming in recent times, and I think that's an area of improvement that I would like to work on.
Just a quick follow-up to that. So you say you don't think the USU is a representative student body. It has 11 directly elected student board directors. Why do you not think it's a representative body? Because
the job of a board director is to make decisions that are for the betterment of the student body. They are in. No, I don't think so, because it's a business, it's a company, and board directors can ultimately go to jail for the decisions that they make. So from that respect, when they're making decisions not on a political basis or because someone who voted for them or campaigned for them said that they want X, Y, Z to happen. They will be making decisions, and I will be making decisions that I truly believe to be in the best interests of the USU and the student community. So I think that's where the distinction lies.
Cool. We'll just go with some more general questions about just you and your background.
Sure.
Again, there's such a big field of candidates this year, it's possible that AA is going to come into consideration. It hasn't for a number of years, 6 or 7 years, I think. What are your views on affirmative action?
I think that affirmative action as it stands in relation to the USU incorporates a number of different aspects. There's the women's leadership breakfast, there's mentoring programs, and then there's also quotas for, in particular, board elections. I think Hannah Morris, who is the women's portfolio holder, did an excellent job last year at writing a comprehensive report that had feedback from both men and women in relation to what they thought on AA and whether they thought it was a good idea. The recommendation in her report was that AA was still necessary in terms of the quotas for board elections, and I agree with that decision. I'd hope that in the not too distant future there's not a need for that, but with the regular reviews of AA and the impacts on the student community, I think that it will be monitored, and so at the moment I think it's a good thing.
So the next question is just, are you a member of or are you affiliated with a political party?
So I am not running a political campaign. None of my policies relate to politics. They are USU policies, and I'm a USU candidate. The number of the people that campaign and support for me will be doing so because they think that I would be a good board director, and they trust me to make good decisions. So I'm the USU candidate.
So you don't think that politics should play a part in the USU board?
No, I don't believe so. I think it's important to have a diverse board with different opinions. Obviously, there is a number of people on board that are a part of political parties. I have an application with the Liberal Party, but it's not processed, so technically, no, I'm not a member of the party.
Okay.
Moving on slightly, what's your position on compulsory student unionism? The USU has a official policy and constitution in support of CSU. I can read it to you if you like. It says that the USU will seek to support, promote and encourage universal student unionism and recognise the benefits it provides to the members and the university community. So what are your personal views on CSU?
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter because it's illegal currently. So CSU was outlawed because the idea that you had to belong or pay membership for a union to be a part of an industry was deemed to be illegal. So unfortunately we can't deal with that.
Yeah, no,
What we can do is that, so we currently have voluntary unionism, which means that students have to elect what they have to pay to become a part of the union. I think ultimately this comes into universal access. If we can reduce the fee to zero, it would promote universal student, the ability for all students, if they chose to be a part of the union, to be a part of the union. But unfortunately, because CSU is illegal, it's not an option. It's not an option.
No, I absolutely wasn't talking about whether it was possible for us to transition back to compulsory unionism, because it's not, and it's unlikely that it will be in the years to come when we have a government or anything. Yeah, it's just more your personal view on
I think
unionism.
the more people, the more members that we can have as part of the USU, the better. And I think that part of compulsory unionism is a good thing, but I think that unfortunately we just kind of have to deal with the fact that it's not a possibility at the moment.
Absolutely.
So based on that, what do you think of SSAF?
What do I think of the SSAF? I think SSAF is great. It is providing a whole heap of money, $13 million, to the university and student organisations, and I think the USU is doing good with that money, and I think that's a good thing.
So what do you think about this year's allocation? Do you think the USU was dealt with fairly in the negotiations this year?
I think the negotiation process that we have at the moment, while it's not ideal, and I know that ASTA has voiced her concerns about the procedure of it, NUS have said and endorsed Sydney Uni's negotiation process as one of the better ones in Australia. So I think that it's important to keep that in mind, but obviously there's a lot of room for improvement. We have to negotiate with the other student organisations to determine everyone's allocation. With 3.11 million, I think we did well this year. I think the greatest problem with SSAF at the moment is the uncertainty in future years. I think that's the greatest problem.
So more broadly, do you think SSAF is distributed fairly to all the student organisations? Do you think, despite the USU doing well, it could have been distributed more equitably to other organisations?
Well, it's distributed against 6 organisations, and they were all represented by students, and so I think that I think the most important thing in my capacity as a potential board director is to look after the union's allocation of money, and I think we did well this year.